Welcome back to the Essentially You podcast. Magdalena, honey, how are you doing, girl, out in the wilderness right now?
Uh, yeah, I'm in a state park in Vermont, and out of my camper van, you can see my bedroom behind me. I'm actually sitting in my living room. My kitchen's on the left. So I've been doing it for 2.5 months, and it's been great. I just went to the park. We went for a swim in the lake. I got back, dried my hair, put some makeup on, and here I am talking to you. So
And you've got
all
your
good.
babies with you too. You got your fur
I
babies.
do. One useless assistant right there, and the one on my left. So I'm sure he's gonna get up in a minute.
I love it. Well, in case the reason why we're also sharing this, two reasons why we're sharing this. One, that endless possibilities for the life that you want. Magdalena is doing it, living her best life and doing it and managing her hormones and all the whole thing. I just love it. And the second reason is that we're just mindful about audio and video. And so we want to just give you a heads up of if the dogs bark a tiny bit or there's a teeny little glitch there, here and there, it is because she is living her best life. And also she's one of my best friends. She is one of the biggest pioneer and experts in estrogen dominance. We're going to be talking specifically about boobies today because we know that estrogen dominance has a profound impact on our breasts. So many women have come to me over the years with painful, heavy, lumpy, uncomfortable breasts, and they don't know what to do. Doctors have nothing for them but maybe hormonal birth control, and we can do better. And it can even get much worse than that, Magdalena. I know that you've dealt with a lot of women who have had, like severe fibrotic breasts, and it's unreasonably painful. So that's what we're going to be talking about. What I'd love, is there anything you want to set off in terms of just giving us a little bit of background around why this has become such a passionate topic for you?
Yeah, I think that we were discussing this with my team. How do we approach this? And one of the things that we all agree on is that whoever has found a lump on her breast is like, there are the times in the history that in your life, right, that you remember, like we all happened when 9/11 happened, right? And you knew exactly where you were. Everybody remembers that. When Princess Diana died, no matter how much you loved or didn't care for her, I didn't really particularly care about, but I remember exactly where I was, right? And I think when a woman finds a breast lump, it's like that moment when you never forget when you found it for the first time, because of the, I think it's first starts with a fear. Is it cancer? You consult Dr. Google, it's gonna go south from there. And then the whole thing about what kind of diagnostic tools do you use? Is mammogram the absolute necessity, or can you do an ultrasound or maybe thermography? When you call the hospital, try to schedule maybe a mammogram, they talk to you like as if you're going to die tomorrow if you don't come in right now, right? And then with that is like the whole baggage of emotions of guilt, shame. Is it my drinking? Is it my birth control in my 20s and 30s? Did I not take care of myself enough, right? And tremendous. So it's like the fear, the shame, the blaming, self-blame, right? Confusion, anxiety, and then you go in whatever the diagnostic tool you choose to go with, and then there's a wait time, right, for you to get the results. And it can be a very, very scary time in a woman's life. And when it's reoccurring, sometimes, women get breasts, like you said, so painful. The putting on a bra is almost impossible, right? A woman can go from size A cup to a D cup, but then in a matter of 2 days, and wear 2 different bras, have to skip going to any kind of sports and exercise, or being intimate for that matter, because it hurts so much, right? So I think there's different levels to it. There's the inconvenience that we are told that is very normal, be part of being a woman, right? And then there is also the fear, that it comes and goes. And I feel like there is so much that we can offer women so they never ever feel like this again. I remember finding my first lump in my late 20s, and I just started dating someone, and I started traveling for work internationally, and Hong Kong was like the market I was going to be covering in a regional role. I was so proud of it. I finally got like a big bump in my salary from like a local to, a more regional package. And then I find this lump, it's almost like felt like I did not deserve all these good things in my life. Something had to happen to kind of bring me down to earth. That's how I felt, so I probably have some issues with deservability per se. But,
who doesn't, girl? Who doesn't?
That is my whole point. And since then, when I look back at it now, it's like, gosh, I really wish I knew what I know now, how preventable it is, how many things that we can do in a short term and a long term to never find another lump again. And that's what really, that's what I promised myself, is that I'm going to do whatever it takes so I don't find another lump again, to go through that emotional roller coaster.
Mm. You speak to so many of us. I think about just, every single woman in my family have had really severe symptoms of estrogen dominance. And I remember my mom telling me at a very young age, probably younger than I didn't understand. She's just like, we just have low progesterone. And I was like, I was like, maybe we just don't have a great functioning liver or gut. At the time, I had no idea, but I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll just take that for par for the course. My family doesn't have progesterone. And so, I remember knowing that my period was coming because my boobs started to get bigger. They started to hurt. They started to ache. And I was like, okay, here's my period. People chalk this up as normality when this isn't a normal thing. And then my sister, exactly what you just described, a year ago, she found a lumps. Well, actually, her doctor, she went in and her doctor they did a breast exam and found all the lumps. She had severe fibrotic breast tissue, so dense, so heavy that, again, they freaked her out. She had to go to a special type of mammogram, a special type of facility to go and see if she had breast cancer or not. Her doctor was convinced she had breast cancer. So for 2 weeks, my sister's trying to get this really special type of appointment with a special type of mammogram to see if she's got breast cancer. Then, they wait 3 days to get the results. It's insane. And you can't just get the results. You got to call the doctor back. Like, it's a whole thing. And the whole time it was so nerve-wracking. She did not have breast cancer, but still had very, very, very dense, uncomfortable, painful breasts. And I remember telling her, I was like, mind you, I put her on all the supplements, but I remember telling her about the product that you had coming out, that you had something that was going to really help her. Mind you, we had to get to the root cause of what was going on. But this is happening in my family. This happened to my sister. I remember navigating these conversations with her. This is happening to so many of us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so common. I mean, could be as common as 70 to 90%, depending on which, who you're looking at, the demographics. 70 to 90% of women at some point in their lives have experienced fibrocystic and lumps on their breasts. So yeah, it's just pretty much, every woman who's listening to this probably has had it.
Okay, so so now we know we all of us are like touching our boobs right now. Like, whew, I have it right now. I've had it before. I got a best friend who's got it. Like, what do we even begin to do? How do we identify what's happening with us?
Yeah, so, I think it's important to realize that there is cyclical and non-cyclical breast pain, right? So cyclical goes along with your period, like if you're menstruating. And like you said before, your period, when progesterone and estrogen both drop, it tends to get a lot of inflammation around the breast. And so that's very cyclical, and that can be fixed. But there's also the non-cyclical, which means that some women have it just for 30 days out of a month, and that it just, and it's just there. And so in which case, women who have the non-cyclical, which means like for 2 weeks, for 3 weeks, sometimes even for 4 weeks out of a month, have it. Estrogen dominance is typically at the root cause of that. I look at this as estrogen dominance that fuels inflammation, just a systemic inflammation in the body. There's lymphatic stagnation, right? You must remember that the breasts are highly lymphocyzed, right? And so, from our lymph nodes all the way down here to our pit arms, right? This whole area is so highly, there's so many lymph nodes and lymphatic channels, and obviously the breasts are hugely emphasized. So I hope we can get to this topic, but like, for example, wearing a bra that doesn't constrain, the lymphatic flow right into the breast could be just one simple solution. But I always like to start off with the estrogen dominance part, because I feel like that's the biggest, needle mover for most women really quickly.
Absolutely. Well, let's get into that, because I want to talk a little bit about, the new product that you've just created, because that's what we're going to be connecting people, which is the Happy Sisters. And so before we get into exactly what this product entails and how it works for us as women and who is it designed for, talk a little bit about, my audience definitely knows about estrogen dominance, but I would love for you to speak into, what are some of the biggest causes of estrogen dominance? Who are the big players? Why are we getting it? And then what can we be doing? Because I feel like it's a daily habit to be ensuring that we're clearing estrogen properly. So what can we be doing on the daily to ensure that we're working through those detox pathways?
Yeah, so the skinny of it is I think really the biggest organ that really metabolizes estrogen out of the body. We literally poop it out, right? And
Mhm.
and so our liver is gonna be the first component in here. So supporting your liver, whether it's through castor oil packs, so through herbs like burdock root, dandelion root, red root, yellow root, artichoke, all these amazing herbs can really improve the stagnation of the liver. There are specific supplements that I really like, and there's 3 of them that I really, really like. DIM that upregulates the first part of the pathway in the liver to that upregulates phase 1 liver detoxification. And then there's 2 other compounds. One is called sulforaphane and calcium glucarate that work on the second part of the pathway. DIM has gotten a lot of like the estrogen buster, reputation in the market, right? It's marketed as that. And a lot of women feel like it's working at first, but then it stops working. And it's because you've just upregulated so much of your first part of your liver detox, but you don't have anything else in the second part to bind up those toxins. And so this is where sulforaphane, which is basically your broccoli seed extract, as well as calcium glucarate, which works on a different detoxification pathway, called the glucuronation pathway, which is kind of very underestimated, I feel, can really be providing the binders to support phase 2. And so I call it a total estrogen detox. That way you're supporting your first pathway, the first part of the detox, and then second part of the detox fully. One of the compounds that really helps with liver detoxification is definitely all your B vitamins, so B complex overall. I also love magnesium. And so, just be mindful. We're not talking about magnesium oxide, which is a cheap form of magnesium, but like magnesium glycinate or in a malate form. Those are wonderful types of magnesium. And so, just that protocol in its own can just create a really, really nice set. You're setting yourself up for success, for your liver to function a lot better. Gut health is another one. There is a subset of bacteria in the gut that called the estrobolome. The estrobolome coats for enzymes that degrade estrogen as well. As you know, and you've covered that with so many other conversations. I mean, gut health is such a huge conversation, so that I'm not even going to go there. But I feel like one basic thing that every woman can do tomorrow is to really embark on the elimination diet to give your digestion a break, meaning getting off all the inflammatory foods, which also going to benefit your breast, because remember we said inflammation, so brings the inflammation down. When we get off gluten and dairy and soy and corn, right, and excessive sugar and alcohol, and specifically coffee, I find that coffee, when it comes to gut health, and it's just really not, it just doesn't work for a lot of women. We had a thread just going on in our forum about what has helped resolve lumpy breasts, and I can't tell you how many women are going in there and saying coffee, 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 and so just reducing coffee or taking coffee out. So I mean, those are some of the basic things that we can definitely do that can help things right away. And what I described just now, that really how we created Happy Sisters is the formula contains a lot of the things that I talked about. But we also created a cream for instant relief, because you might need a full month to really feel the effects of anti-estrogen dominance getting under control and your breast feeling better. But a lot of women, are just like, I have so much pain and so much discomfort. It's like, I need that help right away. And so what we have done is created the cream in order for you to apply it and right away feel a lot of the effects. There's a few things that we used in a cream that really address it. One is GLA, so gamma linolenic acid, which is basically the compound also found in, a lot of women know about evening primrose oil, but we have found that borage seed oil is actually higher in GLA. So we're using that. We're using castor oil because of the deep penetration and can get into the tissue and bring all the herbs with it in there. We use things like Nigella sativa, which is black cumin oil, which in the Middle East, when women have swollen breast, I mean, that's their first go-to method is to apply, black seed oil, and a whole bunch of different herbs that really help to stimulate the lymphatic system. And it's really quite miraculous, like how quickly it produces results.
I love this. Okay, so let me break this down really quickly. First, getting to the root cause, which is helping the liver and the gut move through phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 detoxification so that we can package up this estrogen in a perfect little bow and send it on out so you poop it out, right? That's how we would love it to go. That way we don't have this accumulation that's causing inflammation. also elimination. And if they really want to go and learn about that, your Cooking for Hormones book is phenomenal. So we'll have a link in the show notes for that. But then, as you mentioned, so many women are in so much pain, and it can take, gosh, it could take 2 cycles to get the estrogen dominance under control, depending on how long you've had it and how much estrogen and how much your liver needs support. It can take a minute. And some of us, we don't want to have to take a minute. We would love to not be dealing with some of the pain and discomfort. And let's be honest, it's a lot of inflammation in the breast tissue, in the armpit tissue, in the lymphatic tissue that really needs to be addressed immediately anyway, because that is a buildup of stagnation. So the cream that you created with the happy sisters, right, is going to be what you put on topically. And this has a lot of not only castor oil, the borage seed extract as well, and all of the different herbs designed to put on topically and begin to feel relief. But not only just that, but actually begin to reduce that stagnation, reduce the amount of inflammation that's going on here, and move stuff through, which over time is going to end up getting to the root cause of what's going on with the breast tissue. Is that in a nutshell kind of what we're looking at? So we hit them, we hit both, we hit both at the same time.
Exactly. You exactly. The supplement is the root cause, addresses the root cause. That cream as an instant relief. Basically, that's how we designed it. And one of the things about the cream is that the cream was inspired by a lymphatic massage that I've learned how to do on your own breast. How we designed the cream is to also apply it in a form of a massage on the breast to stimulate the lymphatic massage, lymphatic flow in the breast. Like I mentioned, there's so many lymph nodes that we have right here, but it's also in the breast. And so massaging yourself, it's either you can do it in the shower using just soap when it's nice and soapy, and you can glide your hand around, or you can use something like a cream to do that. If you want, I can just do a quick demo and just show folks how to do that. So, and for those of you who are listening, I'm just gonna try to describe it the best way I can so that you can see what I'm doing. So first of all, pressing harder doesn't mean it's better, okay? So it's a little bit like, imagine if there's these little tiny tubes in your breast and you've got honey in it, and you kind of want to like squeeze the honey through the tubes. If you press too hard, the honey is going to get stuck in it. And there is pressure to it, but it's not, doesn't mean it has to be hard. First thing we want to do is lift up our arm to like about 90 degrees or so, right? So you're just lifting it up. And we want to start off from the nipple. It's always from the nipple, and it will be going towards the armpit, right? So basically, like you see this arm, your forearm, as being the act to remember, the lymphatic system is like a highway for taking the junk out of the body, right? If there is stagnation in it, that's when it's like, that's part of the reason why it hurts. And so what we then want to do is we want to go, very slowly and just always moving it towards the arm, right? And it's from the nipple, and you travel down and you move it up again out there. You do it on the other side, right? And it's so, every part of the breast then gets taken care of. And you do the same thing on the other side, about 2-3 cycles. If you don't have the time, you just apply the cream quickly. It absorbs super fast. And so you can just put on a bra and start your day. But, we do recommend to make this a sort of a self-love, a self-care routine. You can do it later at night before going to bed, so that, you give yourself the time and the space to do that.
I love that. I love the honey analogy. I also think of like trying to move toothpaste out of a tube, just trying to move it on through. And I think, the cream, everyone needs to get it, but also we should be doing these massages pretty consistently, because again, as you mentioned, in the axillary area, armpit, arms, breast tissue, breast is where we store a lot of toxins. As I'm still breastfeeding Kingston, and, I always think about everything I'm eating, I'm putting on my body, because breastfeeding specifically is a great way to detox your body into your baby. And so it's just something to think about. Like,
wow, yeah.
It's that same, it's exactly where we're holding on to so much stuff, especially toxins. And so moving that through, it just should be something that it should be a part of our self-care routine. It should be a part of our wellness routine. Especially, every single one of us knows somebody, family member, friends, aunties, mom's friends. I have a friend of my mom's who is about to pass probably this week or next with breast cancer. And so this is real. This is really happening to so many of the people that we know. And I think, there's just, I wouldn't even necessarily call it stigma, but just not like the conversation around breast health is very taboo. And we're not supposed to talk about it, and we're supposed to just be okay with them being uncomfortable and painful, and that is not true at all. And the better that we take care of the health of our breast, the less likely we're going to develop something bigger over time.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you mentioned that, because really, it's not to say that your breast will experience no change with your cycle, right? But it doesn't have to come to a point where it's debilitating, it's so painful that it goes through from size A to size D, right? There might be some slight changes and a tiny bit of discomfort, but really women who have like estrogen dominance completely under control will tell you that they feel almost no changes in their breasts whatsoever. So it's completely doable.
I'm that girl. I'm sure you are too. I used to, oh my God, they were so painful, so awful, so ropey, so lumpy. And I haven't dealt with that for years, but we have to be able to, like, you got to deal with that root cause. And for those of us who are really struggling, like my sister, the second this hits the shelves, Magdalena, I'm sending it to my sister. I've been priming her. She just literally texted me a couple weeks ago, and she's like, "So when the Happy Sisters coming out?" And I was like, "I promise you this." I was like, "September for your birthday, girl, an early birthday present." My sister's birthday is in September, so we're so stoked.
Nice. I will just mention a couple of things that's not part of the product, but will still make a difference. Since I just want to be totally transparent and, and be helpful to women as well. So we didn't put any progesterone into the product, right? And so we wanted to be sort of hormone free. And so, one thing to do is, because we've addressed the root cause being estrogen dominance, but there's two types of estrogen dominance. How you break down estrogen to the clean estrogen and dirty estrogen is what the product addresses. But what we also need to fix for some women is to also correct the ratio of estrogen to progesterone. So if you know you're low on progesterone because you've been tested, or you have symptoms such as suddenly you've got insomnia, you've always been a great sleeper and suddenly you can't sleep anymore, you wake up in the middle of the night, you can't go back to sleep, you can't fall asleep, you got suddenly anxiety and you become like this warrior, as in warrior, like you were never, you never liked that before, right? And so if you're still menstruating, your second, your luteal phase becomes a lot shorter. If you are having spotting in the middle of your cycle, right? Those are just like these signs that they could be low progesterone. Then getting on the bioidentical as progesterone might be a really good idea. And you can even put the progesterone on your breast as well. And so that's going to be, another way of relieving that pain too.
Love that. And honestly, I feel like all of us at some point or another is going to need a little progesterone support to get us through. You feel like you fell off the cliff, then you need progesterone most likely. And for some of us, earlier than others, I remember having menopausal levels of progesterone in my early to mid 30s. Like, and for some of us, so it's important to be looking at that. Like if something does not feel right to you, and like I said, you're edgy, you're triggered, like all of a sudden it came out of nowhere. It's the hormone you took for granted. She disappeared and we got to get her back, and so definitely be testing for that. And I think here's the thing, we need all the tools, Magdalena. We need all the options. We need all the tools. And most of us are going to need to be leveraging all of these at some point or another. So I'm so glad you mentioned that.
I want to mention a couple of other things. One is get rid of all the bras that contain wires in it, right? So, the wires where they sit, right? That's going to be restricting a lot of the lymphatic flow here under your breast, right? Really bad idea. Get a bra that gives a lot of support, but without the wires. Another thing is, you talked about the phase 3 detoxification, right? So that will be our elimination. I can't tell you how many women have said that when they resolve constipation, that's when like everything just starts falling in place, meaning their estrogen dominance improves, right? And with that, their breast health improves. And we're talking about breast here today, but the truth is that when you correct estrogen dominance, like everything starts improving. Your mood is better, you sleep better, you look better, like it's just your boobs are feeling better, like everything is, your cycle is better, if you're still cycling. And so, on constipation, really one of the big food sensitivities that we have found is dairy contributing towards constipation in women. And so really, if you're still having that thing like, oh, I'm eating so healthy, but cheese is my only thing. There's so many different dairy substitutes today, and so get rid of it for a couple of weeks, for a month, and see whether your constipation improves. Magnesium citrate is a really great way of moving things through. However, I do see a little bit of a laxative. And so the minute you stop, magnesium citrate, constipation can come back. So that might not be such a great solution. But correcting your magnesium levels, and then getting your diet up to the par. Obviously, fiber, right? I mean, that's like no brainer on that one. Sufficient, water intake, right? So I'm sure, have you talked about constipation before on your?
Oh yeah, we actually did a whole episode on the connection between constipation and estrogen dominance. I'm like, what if it's your poop or your lack thereof? Because it plays a huge role here. And fiber. I mean, who's getting enough fiber today? Who's getting the 50 grams of fiber that they need every day? Unless you're being very proactive about it. Most of us aren't. And most women I meet, oh my goodness, they're not pooping every day. And, it's a major issue.
I'm going to mention one thing that is kind of controversial, and a lot of women question that. And so I want to address this because I think it's very important. When people ask me, what is your fiber intake, right? I mean, beyond just all the vegetables and stuff, I always tell them, I start off my day with a couple of tablespoons of flaxseed in the morning, right? And it'll be like, oh my God, but flaxseed is estrogenic. So what are you doing? Like, you're just adding to estrogen dominance. And that is, it's a plausible, logical assumption, but it's a lot more nuanced than that, right? So let's just establish that flaxseed is actually, first of all, because there's so much fiber in it, it actually helps you estrogen dominance. But beyond that, I almost see flaxseed as sort of being like an estrogen modulator, meaning that it actually attaches itself to those problematic receptors and blocks that dirty estrogen from coming through. And it gives you the phytoestrogens, which are good estrogens, because, hey, you know what? We need them in order to function as women. So it's a nuanced approach, a food, right? But overall, I mean, I think it's, it can just create amazing results for most women. Having said that, I always find like maybe 1 out of 20 women will report that ever since they're taking flaxseed, actually their symptoms of estrogen dominance have gotten worse. So you got to listen to your body. And I did some research on that, and the only thing I've found is that might be because you don't have certain bacteria in your gut. And so it really goes back to your gut health, right? But anyway, so while you're working on your gut health, if flaxseed is actually making you worse, then you definitely don't want to continue with that. Most women have the opposite reaction, meaning the positive experience.
Absolutely. I think, I think that the idea, some things are definitely black and white for a lot of people, but flaxseed is one of those, it is a phytonutrient, that it can really work in our benefit. And most of us are not getting enough fiber. Now, if flaxseed is not the answer for you, it could be chia seeds, it could be basil seeds, a lot of the seeds out there that can really help support. But at the end of the day, we gotta keep, you're not detoxifying, you're not moving estrogen and other hormones and other toxins out if you're not pooping every single day, period. So figure out the recipe that works best for you and make sure that it's going down on the daily.
Totally. 100%.
Perfect. Okay. So where do we get the Happy Sisters? Is it in the store? What's going on?
It's soon to be in the store. I think by the time you release the podcast, it will be in the store.
Yes. I'm not releasing this podcast until it's in the store.
So it's just on wellena.com, WELLENA.com is our brand. It's right there, middle of center. Look for Happy Sisters.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And where else can we go and find you? Where else would you love us to check you out?
If you're on Instagram, it's Hormone Balance. That's the handle. And if you want to find me on Facebook, then it's Hormone, and that's Hormones Balance is the community.
Perfect. Thank you so much, honey, for coming on. Thank you so much for working tirelessly to formulate this incredible product that's going to change so many lives. And I'm so excited. We've been having this conversation for almost 2 years now, waiting for this product to get ready. And so it's been a labor of love. And so I just want to honor you and champion you in being the change that we all want to see for women. And I cannot wait to get my hands on it. I cannot wait for my audience and my community to get my hands on the Happy Sisters as well. And I just want to say thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me. And so important to talk about this, to women's health. So thank you for using your platform to really get the word out.